A significant part of your role as PA to someone with a neuromuscular condition will be helping them with their personal care. In this module, we'll be looking at the dynamics of that and how to remain respectful in situations where you need to do intimate tasks for your employer.
So people with neuromuscular conditions need help with activities of daily living that to enable them to do the things that they want to do, like work, for example, or just live day to day. So as I've said, if you have muscle weakness, you may have difficulty putting on your clothes. If you can't get your arms up above your head, or you can't actually move your arms, or you've got weak legs, you're going to need some help with dressing and undressing. If you've got weak arms, you may need help with feeding as well, depending on how weak those arms are. Sometimes the help just means positioning things at a right level. So if you've got weak arms, but you've got movement in your hands, then maybe lifting the arms up a bit higher or getting you into the right position to feed is what is the help you need. If your arms are very weak, then you may need someone to actually feed you, for example. You may need help getting on and off the toilet. You may need help showering, bathing.
Kate Mellor is very busy and active, but needs all of her personal care to be done by her PAs.
It's incredible how you can look at somebody and they look like they just do everything, and then just under the surface you have all this equipment and process in order to stay alive.
Kim Kemp is someone else who needs help with many aspects of her personal care.
Well, my PAs, I see my PAs as like an extension of my body, because they practically do everything for me, but definitely allow me to do the things that I can do. So, they help me get up in the morning, do my stretches, get showered, get ready, make sure I'm fed, make sure I'm dressed, clean, hair done, out for the day, or if I'm going to work, they take me to and from work.
The first thing to remember about personal care is that all bodies have basically the same needs. So the person you work with will need help with the same things as you do for yourself. Due to their muscle weakness, some of the ways these are done might be a little different to solve practical barriers, but the bodily processes are the same. Sam Waddington explains himself to his PAs what he needs when they start working for him.
I'm very aware when I have someone who's not been caring before, or someone who's not cared for me before, with my personal care. It's obviously not necessarily complicated, but it's very specific. So it's, and I'm probably different to other people's. So, for new people, I do have to be very prescriptive and very much give steps for kind of every single instruction. I now don't have to do that with my other PA, and that's kind of, and I've got another PA that's been with me about a year, and again with that person now, I don't have to kind of tell them everything, and that does make things a whole lot easier.
Other things that I need are assistance to get washed and dressed, to take medication, tablets, inhalers, dissolvable stuff, to use a cough assist and a BiPAP ventilator, which I use overnight and during the day. Again, these are things that sound intimidating. Someone who's not seen this equipment before, but they are designed for home use. They are quite friendly. They're 1 or 2 buttons press away from being operational at any time.
There can be embarrassment around intimate bodily functions, and people with neuromuscular conditions can feel this just the same as anyone else.
I would say that the first time any PA does personal care, it's always a little bit of a nervous moment for us both. It's a very fast shifting of boundaries from hello, I've just met you, to hello, let's do some hygiene. The most important thing when being around someone else's body is communication. If I'm facing away from you, or about to roll or about to have some clothing pulled over my head, let me know. Especially if I'm half asleep, let me know, and then I won't jump out of my skin.
Another PA or a family member may show you what to do and how, but many people with neuromuscular conditions will simply explain directly to you what to do as you're doing it.
All the physical stuff, all the personal care, using a hoist or using other equipment, I believe that any of that can be trained, and anyone can do that. It's a skill that you can learn, and I think most people can learn it very quickly. So what I kind of think about more is the person themselves and what they are like as a person. And I think, again, a big one for me is that respect and understanding of your situation.
A person who has extreme weakness can feel vulnerable when having their personal care done by someone else. They have very little choice around the invasion of their privacy. Although they can make choices about how these intimate things should be done, it's not realistic for them to refuse to have anyone to do that for them. And there's often no alternative. This is one of the reasons that your employer will have chosen how their PAs are selected. And in many cases, they will interview and appoint PAs themselves. Whether you've been chosen directly by the person or recruited by family or through an agency, it's likely you've been given the job because the person you're working with feels like they'll be able to trust you.
I've had to accept very grudgingly that I have to have this. And I think sometimes when people see that you have PAs and that you have a condition, I think they feel that you're all right with it. They don't really get that you absolutely hate it. And it destroys me as a person. I need to have different people coming in.
When circumstances mean you're in an intimate situation with the person you're working with, particularly in a home environment, it can be easy to become overfamiliar. Remember that this is a professional relationship. Respect the personal space of the person you're working with and avoid any physically affectionate or unnecessary contact. Sir Perry explains.
One thing that's definitely a don't for me is sort of stroking or petting or patting on the head. Those sort of little gestures that are, I find them quite creepy, if I'm honest. They're not appropriate. They're not part of the role. They're not part of the task that we're doing. And that's not okay.
Try to have clear communication about what you can expect to be doing before you're actually in the situation doing the person's personal care. If you have any specific questions, you can ask these at interview or during your induction. This will help you to avoid expressing what might look like awkwardness, fear, or embarrassment when you're actually doing it.
So the first thing that I listen for on the first telephone interview is how people speak to me. Do they speak to me as an equal? Do they use the name that I've introduced myself as? Or are they continuously calling me darling, sweetheart, sweetie, lovey, and all sorts of pet names that are not appropriate to that relationship?
Consent is vital in personal care. Although you've been chosen and employed to do these tasks, the person you're working with has the right to decide how, when, and where things are done. Always make certain that you have their consent for any task you're doing, but particularly when it relates to their own body.
They may have a face that doesn't show expression, which may make you think that they cannot make decisions, but that is completely wrong. And you need to understand that for anything you do for a person with neuromuscular disease, you require their consent to do it. And so, I think we're talking about here is about consent and about not pulling someone, just because it suits you, you're in a hurry, you want to get off your shift. Actually, before you do anything, when it comes to a care procedure, you need that person's consent. And if they say, and you think they want something, or you think they need to have something done now, but they're saying, no, I don't want that, then you have to respect that view. If they have the capacity, they're to say they don't need this medicine now, they don't want that now, they want it later, you have to respect that view. You cannot force your view onto somebody who has capacity.
They know how to do things, but they definitely leave it up to me to make decisions of where we go, what we do, even how we do it. So they're very respectful in that way, that they understand this is my house, this is how I want my house run, this is how I want my life to be.
So with consent, obviously the PA role involves personal care, but you can make sure that the person consents to when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, what's used to do that. You know, each tiny step of the process is something that a person will have changed their PA on or had someone demo to their PA. And so by demoing, they've consented to it being done in this way until such time they ask for something to be done differently. If someone says stop, that means stop. It doesn't mean carry on after 2 seconds. It doesn't mean just ignore that. It means stop until they tell you to start something again.
As well as learning what needs doing, pay attention to how your employer prefers to communicate about what's happening. Some people might be very direct and use the correct names for body parts and processes, while others might be more comfortable using slang, euphemisms, or gestures to indicate what needs doing. As long as you understand what's being communicated, try to follow the lead of the person you're working with.
I'm quite random and I like to do different things, and I'll change my mind. I won't want the same thing all the time, and but I know that in my head, and if I don't express that to my PA, then they don't know.
It can sometimes feel awkward, lonely, or even hostile for the person if there's no small talk and conversation while doing their personal care. But also, nerves and embarrassment can sometimes lead to chatter, which might also be uncomfortable. Try to strike a balance that you're both comfortable with.
When you get agency people coming in and PAs that are not that great, not that chatty, not that friendly, I don't think they understand that kind of takes a piece of me away.
You know, as we're asking for everything in life from a physical point of view for help, I suppose you minimize the amount of help and care that you request because you don't really want to interact with that person. You minimize it, which is really not good.
Take the lead from your employer. Remember, they're in a physically vulnerable position, and if they feel uncomfortable, they may not ask for the help they need.
One thing that makes the first few days a lot less awkward for me with a new PA is if they give me a lot of space and time. We're going through a lot of information, we're going through a lot of equipment, and we're getting to know each other. But getting to know me doesn't mean asking a ton of personal questions about my friends, my family, my history. But I find that really throws me off. If you're not sure what a person is or isn't comfortable talking about themselves or about their life, let them lead the way. They will tell you things that you need to know, things that they want you to know, and things that they're excited about.
There may be times when something is on your own mind, but when you're in the bathroom with your employer or doing their personal care, it's not the time for you to voice it. Remember, as a person with a neuromuscular condition, these times are when they feel most vulnerable. So conversations about uncomfortable subject matter, expressing your own strong opinions, or negotiations over things to do with your employment should be left for other times. Particularly as you become more comfortable with one another, bear in mind that for your employer, this is private time. Personal care needs to be done even when the person is feeling like they don't want to be around other people. Sometimes they may be in a mood, which means they want to be quiet and have mental space. And at other times, they might voice what's on their mind. If this is the case, be a sounding board, but don't pry. Your job in this situation is to do the physical tasks that are needed, not to offer solutions or discussion of things in the person's life.
I suppose you are never actually alone sometimes. So things like privacy can be a challenge within the relationship, the working relationship, and being able to work out that common ground and mutual respect and trust to be able to have an open dialogue between the two of you.
In this module, we've talked about the kinds of personal care you might be doing for a person with a neuromuscular condition, how that might be done, and how you'll be trained to do it. We've learned about feelings of vulnerability for a person with a neuromuscular condition when they're receiving personal care, the importance of consent, and how respect and communication contribute to a strong working relationship. We've seen some of the kinds of behaviours which make it difficult to carry out personal care, what conversation subject matter might be appropriate and inappropriate, and how to make the situation more